Hello and welcome to the Caz and Daz show. It is the first episode, the inaugural episode of the Caz and Daz show, and we are delighted to be debuting our brand new women's basketball weekly show and podcast. It will be available after on YouTube, Facebook, the FocusHoops Facebook, of course, and on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts if you want to listen back to it. We are delighted to be joined by a number of people today. Obviously, as the name entails, Caz and Daz. I'm here. I'm Daz, Darren Paul from FocusHoops. We've also got Kaz Bullock, Manchester basketball royalty. She's also with us, raring to go. But hold on just a second, Kaz, because we've got some other people. We have Huw Hopkins. You may know him as Coach Huw on Twitter. He is here to talk goats, not those friendly, fluffy fellas that took over Llandudno over the lockdown. No, just the greatest of all time. We got so enamored with that wonderful bit of banter that we thought we got to get a bit of that ourselves with the one and only Huw Hopkins. Also, we talk about GB Eurobasket, WNBL. That tipped off this weekend with a couple of teams. And don't you worry, we did a cheeky little preview for it for you just to get up to speed with the league. And finally, Faith Okwuosa is going to join us from Thames Valley Cavaliers to talk about their fundraising efforts. So without further ado, let's just kick things off. Caz, how are you doing today?
Hello, I'm great. This is such an exciting thing to start this week or midweek, wherever we're at. Thursday. Days don't mean anything anymore.
It's Thursday. I mean, I don't know what to tell you about that one.
But we've got so much women's basketball to talk about. It's going to be great.
I'm not entirely sure where to start, and we weren't too sure where to start overall. Do we dive into some games? Do we dive into a league? But now we thought, do you know what? Because remember, we did that amazing live show the other day. We had loads of views, loads of comments. And if you're watching this live, if you're watching on catch up, get your comments in because we read them all, respond to them all, and we absolutely love your ideas and thoughts. And the first question we got on a women's basketball podcast about the WNBA, who's better? Jordan or LeBron? It's like, sure, let's do that. So let's do that, but not about the men's game because that's been played out. That's dull. That's tiresome. Let's talk about the greatest women's players of all time. And there's only one man for that. And he's rocking the orange hoodie. Huw Hopkins of, give yourself the introduction. Let us know where we can read or see your work.
I'm not great at self-introductions, if I'm honest. Like, I get all shy and coy about it. But I do, primarily, I work with the website Double Clutch UK, which is sort of all NBA, all WNBA, and we're even branching out into, like, BBL and a bit of FIBA and stuff like that. But the past couple of seasons, I've been also working with Sky Sports as one of their main WNBA, analysts on the website, but also doing a bit on NBA as well. But I've also done some stuff with FIBA directly, covering. I covered the Eurobasket tournament last year. And went over to Serbia, which was just the most amazing experience of my life, really, and covered that for Sporting News in the United States. And I throw myself around here and there, and I'm thrilled to be with you guys, especially on this first awesome show. I've obviously been following Focus Hoops for a little while, and I must say you have the greatest live production package of any web browsing streaming show, because I honestly, Darren, I don't know how you do it all. is quite fantastic. We're trying to do it at Double Clutch, and we need a whole other person who's not even doing any of the presenting or anything. So shout out to you, because it's great work what you're doing.
Oh, well, I really appreciate it. That's really kind. And like I said, when I thought we've got this first episode coming up, who are we going to get? It had to be Huw Hopkins. And the reason for this, look, maybe a dip behind the curtain. It's fully in front of the curtain. Was it Diana Taurasi you asked a question of in one of the media advisories that we were lucky enough to do? Or not advisories, availabilities we were lucky enough to do. And she didn't slap you down and tell you it was a silly question. Was it Diana Taurasi or was it Sue Bird?
That was Sue Bird. Sue Bird actually said that I asked a good question, and that it was the most I my knees went weak. I didn't know what to do with myself. Journalistic credibility went out the window. But when you get like just half a sentence saying that you're good from one of the all-time greats, I mean that means the world, doesn't it?
If and when it happens, I'll let you know. But I can imagine. So, I was pretty chuffed to be able to ask Bill Laimbeer quite a few questions this summer, and at no point did he just get up and walk away or tell Giggy to get the seat. So, I was pretty chuffed with that. That was a win for me.
With Bill Laimbeer, that is a win, isn't it? That's just that's a sign off. If he doesn't walk away, and yeah, that's good.
So we're here talking about the greatest players of all time, and I mean I'm just gonna throw two names out there, obviously that sort of inspired this conversation, but I want to see what you guys have to think. And hey, again, if you're watching this live, if you're watching on demand, who do you think are the greatest female players of all time? Let us know in the comments, and during the course of the conversation, we'll put it up there, we'll discuss it. Okay. Where was I? I was, yes, Two Birds, obviously, that sparked all this, was goat chat over the summer. It was actually Kaz's favourite thing. She doesn't like to talk about it. But during the intermissions and games, that little goat chat of like, hey, what sound of goats make? Meh. And then bleep. It was awesome. I loved it. Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird, the most fascinating relationship in the entire world of sport, I think. So we'll throw over to Caz, because I've spoken a lot right now. Caz, those are my two opening gambits. Have you got any other names to check out there? And then we'll see where we go.
I want to throw Cynthia Cooper in there. The original GOAT for me. What I think as well is I think we're, what we were talking about this the other week, we've had 20, 25 years of kind of pro women's basketball. There's so many names that could have come beforehand that I feel like we can't kind of gauge and judge because there was no league for them to play in. Cheryl Miller never got the chance really to do anything professionally after college. What would she have done? Nancy Lieberman, even Babe Deirdrickson in the 30s, 40s. It's crazy, but I would throw in the modern era of women's professional basketball, I'd put Cynthia Cooper in there.
Huw, what about yourself? Where do you stand on these early names that we've got so far?
Yeah, Cynthia Cooper is absolutely. I completely agree with you, Caz. And I think she's possibly overlooked in this conversation a little bit, simply because all of her success came ultimately within the first 5 years of the WNBA. The Houston Comets won the first 4 championships. Now, I will preface the majority of this conversation by saying I am an advocate of rings culture a little bit, not entirely. It's not the only thing I look at, but when you win 4 on the trot, that's impressive. That's more than impressive. And I think Cynthia Cooper was the one that sort of led that charge. I mean, you of course, you had Tina Thompson, but and you also had Cheryl Swoops, of course. Let's not forget about that. But I think she was the person who came into the league as a ready-to-go package. She had already played professionally, internationally, and she was perhaps she wasn't the player that everybody thought was going to be the best player when all those when that overall draft happened. But she was the one that was sort of a ready-made package that was like, she's going to have an impact straight away. And she did, leading that team to the first 4 championships. And I think the role of the leader changed a little bit over the first few years. When she was the undoubted leader in the first 2 seasons, I think it did change a little bit going forward. But if we're talking WNBA, and, going back to the very start of the WNBA, she has to be the first name that comes up. She's the first GOAT, if you will. But I'm totally with you, Caz. Before that, Cheryl Miller has to be in that conversation. She, unfortunately, was derailed with a knee injury that, honestly, if it happened today, I think you'd be able to recover from, and you'd have better modern surgeries and new technology to help you get back to full strength. But Cheryl Miller absolutely deserves her flowers.
I've got to say Cheryl Miller is the first name that comes to mind for me, but I don't know how much of it's like sort of mythologizing. Not that she wasn't a great player, but it's the fact that she had this amazing brother who played in the NBA, sorry, and everyone's like, no, you've not seen anything. You should see Cheryl, and him getting heckled by her name, which, if you've got an amazing sibling at a sport, then there's absolutely no shame in that, and the heckling's kind of dumb.
There's a great documentary, The Women of Troy, that you absolutely must watch. It's about that Cheryl Miller team with also Cynthia Cooper and also Pam and what's the other McGee? Why am I blanking on? Pam and Paula McGee. It's that team, that college team, that essentially, they also represent some of them were on that Olympic team as well before the WNBA started, and they were really the catalyst for the WNBA.
Moving to the modern day a little bit, again, thinking about your DT and your Sue Bird, how highly do you rate their case to be considered the greatest of all time? Also, we have a comment from Antonio Gerling, so thank you so much. He's on our Focus Hoops Facebook. He says Becky Hammon. He's thrown Becky Hammon into the mix. So we'll start there then, Huw. Where do you stand on Becky Hammon's case as GOAT?
Becky Hammon is one of the all-time greats. She is not a GOAT, in my opinion. I hope in some ways I hope I never get to meet her so she can shove this back in my face, but because she is one of the all-time greats. But like I said, just going back to what I said earlier, I do subscribe to ring culture a little bit, and she never reached the mountaintop. Not that was necessarily her fault. She wasn't always blessed with the best supporting casts in New York and in San Antonio. Nobody could stop her. She was one of these small guards that could really that could throw you off with a fantastic first step and a pretty mean crossover as well. And she would barrel in and get the most ridiculous layups. And honestly, you would look at male players like Kyrie Irving and think, oh my God, how did he get that off? Becky Hammon was a bit of a sort of footprint for players that came later who were undersized. So I would absolutely, I think she deserves mention in this conversation, but I don't think she deserves to be on the plateau, my opinion. What do you think, Caz?
Yeah, I think you're really spot on there, Huw. As a player, amazing player, but maybe just not quite up there as a coach. Maybe now that could be a whole other new career set for her. Obviously, with San Antonio and that culture, learning from Popovich. I'm going off topic here, but I would love to see her in a head coaching position in the NBA or the WNBA. And I think maybe that's where her sort of next phase of potentially, could she be a GOAT coach? Who knows? Hopefully.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, when I think Becky Hammon, I just think the first female NBA coach, head coach.
Yeah.
Rather, I think she's absolutely set for that.
Hopefully, it's not too much longer.
I mean, you see some of the appointments that get made, I mean, think a little bit outside the box.
There's so many of them that are happening at the moment, and it's really disappointing that she's not even being thrown into the conversations, like on all the rumors or whatever, And part of me wonders, well, maybe Popovich is about to step down, and they're just sort of passing it over quietly. But I just don't know. In my heart, I want her to take over the reins in San Antonio because she has been part of the culture there, and all the players will respect her. Whereas if she goes to a superstar-led team with all these players who earn multi-million pounds just to breathe on the court, I think that's going to be a bit more difficult for a woman head coach, even though she's highly respected.
Yeah.
And she probably knows the game better than half of the NBA already. I think, unfortunately, we do live in a world where people, consider women not as knowledgeable as men, which is ridiculous, as all three of us sort of know and appreciate. But I think, I think she's going to be a fantastic coach when she gets the nod.
So you wouldn't want to see her rock up at the Brooklyn Nets, then? Is that what I'm getting from this? Could you imagine? Oh my god!
They don't need a coach in Brooklyn.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, apparently not.
So let's move on to then, obviously, Diana Taurasi. Let's just start with Diana Taurasi because she's part of Goat Chat. Is she a self-appointed? Can you really do that? Can you be part of a show called Goat Chat? I don't know.
If you are, yeah.
I mean, I suppose. I mean, she's in the conversation, surely. Who?
For me, she is the GOAT. I think she has won 3 championships now, which obviously isn't quite as many as those Houston Comets or even Maya Moore, who I imagine we'll come on to shortly. But she has taken 3 different iterations of that team. There was quite a bit of change with each one of those championship teams. She's also done it at an extremely high level in Europe as well. I can't remember how many college championships she won, but I know she's got one, maybe 2 under her belt.
Oh,
I think it's 2.
I think it's.
My apologies. Should have done more research on that. But the way that she. Also, when you look back at some of the greatest women's basketball players, there is an archetype in the sense that they are sort of like small centers or big forwards. You look at like Candace Parker, Lisa Leslie, a couple of perhaps even Breanna Stewart, who we might come on to later. But I think Diana Taurasi sort of changed the idea of what one of the greatest players could be, from that archetype to what ended up becoming like Maya Moore and more wing perimeter players. So I think she changed the game a little bit, and she also became the scariest force on the court. Just the most intimidating presence, which I think says a lot.
Does that include telling people to catch them in the lobby? Is that?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to. That was a ref.
Oh, God, no. And the fact that she stayed on the floor on that occasion is mighty impressive. It turns out I was correct. 3 college championships between 2002 and 2004 with UConn, where she will have played at least a couple of seasons with Sue Bird, who is next on GOAT Chat. It's interesting. So 3 WNBA titles for Taurasi, but you've got her above Bird. Talk to me about that, Huw.
I think Sue Bird is... I had this conversation, I think it was on the Basketball by Association podcast, and Sue Bird is to me what Tim Duncan was in the NBA. He was the best player on the floor in most games, but he didn't need to be the best player because he was so good at helping others and so good at affecting the game in more ways than just dominating in the scoring category that he is considered the greatest power forward of all time, but he's not really considered in the GOAT chat of NBA players or male basketball players. Whereas I think Sue Bird is arguably the greatest point guard of all time, but I don't think she's on that list of greatest of all time. Now, I do, going back to that whole ring culture thing again, she has a chance to get 5, which would match only Rebecca Brunson. And there's only 10 players in the WNBA who have won 4 championships, including her. So she is pretty high up that list. And I think her longevity is also a huge credit to her, and she deserves to be right up there. And I'll admit, after this WNBA season, I did think, is she up there with Taurasi now? It's difficult to yeah, it's really it's a piece of paper between them if there's anything now. But maybe next year if Sue Bird wins another one, maybe we could, and she plays the majority of the season. It might be that she catches Taurasi.
Here's the question then: what sort of percentage of games do you need her to play in a regular season for next year to not count? But you know what I mean.
I mean, don't get me wrong. She's going to be like 41 next year. I'm not expecting her to play the whole season. I would like, but when she was in on the court and in the game this year, there were times where the team looked a little frantic, and then she came onto the court and calmed everybody down. And she has that influence still, and she can do that to a high level again next year. She doesn't necessarily need to do it on the court. I think she can have that presence from the sidelines. But I think you do need to, you can't just turn up to a championship game each year and collect your rings and take another step up the ladder. I think you do need to contribute on the court to be considered the greatest player, So I'd like to see her play at least 50, if not 60% of her games in a regular season. And we know she's not going to be playing big minutes in those games either. And then she would need to play the whole playoffs, I think.
That seems reasonable. Caz, what do you think?
Yeah, I think for me, Taurasi's more of an all-round player than Sue Bird. And if I was coming down to it, your team's down 20 going into the fourth. Taurasi has got that sort of drive and that willpower to bring you back. Not that Sue Bird doesn't. It's just not. It's not as at the forefront. It's Taurasi is going to be like shouting and getting everyone hyped up to do it, because she's just got that like drive to do it. And she's a scary player on the court. And she's the all-time leading scorer, but she's also in the top 30 in blocks and rebounds as well. Mm-hmm. Whereas Sue Bird, amazing assist and playmaker, but she doesn't have that all-around part to her game that Taurasi does. And I think while she's got more championships, it's that kind of all-around player and what she's done with the team around her and the three different teams there in Phoenix. Whereas Seattle, she does, as Huw says, she doesn't have to be the go-to player.
And I don't think she's ever been the best player on a championship team. I might maybe that's sacrilege, but she had Lauren Jackson there for the first two and Breanna Stewart there for the second two, and arguably they were the more important offensive powerhouses on those teams. And I like what you say that Diana Taurasi, if you're down 20, she can still get you back in the game. Yeah. I think Sue Bird, if you're down 20, she might not get you back. But if you are up 10 and they're cutting away at a lead, she's the type of player who can come in and say, "Calm down, everybody. Just hold your heads." Whereas I think Taurasi does a bit of that, but she can also do that coming up from behind. She has yeah.
See, this is where I come into defense Sue Bird a little bit and say, if you're a great player, you don't need to be coming back from down 20 because you shouldn't be down 20 in the first place. Yeah?
Maybe that's why she has 4 rings.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, look at that game. I mean, that game 2 of the WNBA Finals. Now, we were watching it live and having a great conversation with people in the chat about LeBron James, as you do. And I think I sort of felt a little bit somehow deflated at the end of it because it was like, this was a classic game. I think that was an instant classic. But the end of it is like, and Vegas still couldn't win. They played an excellent game of basketball and they still couldn't win. And I think part of that is because Sue Bird is just able to, I don't know, really exert her will on a game of basketball, but maybe in a slightly quiet way. I don't know. What do you think, Huw?
Yeah. I mean, I think I think when you look back at the 2018 finals, it went. I believe it went 5 games against the Washington Mystics, but I never felt at any point that the Seattle Storm were going to lose that series, and it's because every win looked for Seattle Storm looked really comfortable, and every loss was only by like a point or two, and the Washington Mystics had to grind to actually, get any sort of success in the finals. It's not me putting down the Mystics at all. They were a great team, but they were hobbled with injuries. I'm surprised, I think they shocked a few people to even make that finals that year because they, Elena Delle Donne had hyperextended her knee in the previous round, so she was not at her best at all. So it's a great service to the Washington Mystics that they were even in it up until 5 games. But yeah, I think it's not very often I would count out Sue Bird. And I think, like she said in her post-game chat after the finals with Holly Rowe, is that I think she's undefeated when she gets out of the first round of the playoffs. So you can't argue with that.
Okay, we move on to Maya Moore, who is, we're in the GOAT chat, but I can't remember exactly how old she is, but she could still come back and play and be fully in the prime of her prime years at least. Obviously, taking the last 2 seasons out for social justice, getting the release of Jonathan Irons, who she has now married, which is a really wonderful story. So, Huw, you brought up Maya Moore. Let's hear the case.
There has been few people. There's been basically no one in the professional women's basketball, National Basketball Association, that has managed to have such an impact in such a short space of time. She won 4 championships in 8 years. She went to the finals, I think, 6 times during that period. She had 2 sets of 3 straight trips to the finals. And honestly, the fact that she just upped and left is almost like, I think that helps her in some ways, because it's like, this is my resume, this is how great I am, see ya. But at the same time, you do want to see that longevity. So I think she is right behind Diana Taurasi, but if she comes back and leads her team to another championship, then I think, there's every case that Maya Moore could be, could be the greatest of all time. Because, there's just nobody that's had such a huge impact on a franchise than she did in such a short space of time.
Caz, anything to add on Maya Moore at all?
That's covered it. Yeah. I'd love to see her come back. It'd be really great to see her come back and put her into that Minnesota team. But
I think
hold it right, don't they? So
it's going to be interesting, like if she does come back, because Nafisa Collier is basically filling that role now, which is she's doing a great job of, and I think she could be, she could be an all-time great as well from what we've seen, and she sort of fills that Maya Moore physique, that Maya Moore role. So it's going to be interesting, but I think they could work together on the court as well, and they could be, that could be a dangerous team. I mean, they already made it to the semi-finals this year, and you can never count out a Cheryl Reeve team to begin with. And if she comes back, that would be cool.
Okay, last one on my list of like definite names, obviously Breanna Stewart, or as ESPN likes to call her, Stewie. Another championship for Breanna Stewart. The resume just gets better and better, and I mean, she plays for Ekaterinburg, so there's that as well. Who? Breanna Stewart.
Yeah, I mean, she's well on her way, isn't she? I think it's perhaps a little too early to sort of define her as the greatest of all time just yet, but I mean, she's got all the makings of it. She's the only person in history, not just men, not just women, but also men, the only person in history to win 4 straight college championships. as well as I think 3 straight most outstanding player of the tournament in March Madness, and she also has won MVP in 2019 in EuroLeague, and she's won MVP in WNBA in 2018. Honestly, it feels like she is the most unstoppable force in the world right now, and you saw it. I mean, all credit to Asia Wilson, who deservedly won MVP this year.
Mm-hmm.
But when they were on the court together, you just saw the versatility and the absolute surgical destruction that Breanna Stewart can do, because she will be able to post you up. She can also act as the point guard. She can shoot from 3 comfortably. She can take you off the dribble. She can face you up in the post, while also sort of passing out from the post to basically anywhere. And also she's an incredible defender. Like, she's alongside Natasha Howard, and she's alongside Alicia Clark. So, and also Sammy Whitaker, and even the rest of them. The rest of Jordan Canada is a pretty decent defender. Sue Bird, even though she's old and a bit slower these days, she can still hang, and she knows schemes better than any player in the WNBA. But even among all that defensive talent, Breanna Stewart still finds a way to really stand out on that end of the court. And I don't think there has been... I mean, Diana Taurasi is incredible, but I don't think she's ever had the defensive prowess that Breanna Stewart has had. Lisa Leslie, she was incredible, but I don't think she had the all-round game at all. Going back, to the early days, maybe Cheryl Miller. I mean, honestly, I haven't seen enough of Cheryl Miller's games to be able to determine. She could be great on both ends of the court, from what I understand, but I haven't seen enough tape to compare. I really think there is nobody who has both ends of the court down to a T in the way that Breanna Stewart does. And I think she's 26. She could play another 10 years and win 5 more championships and be well on her way.
Caz, what do you think about the case for Breanna Stewart?
Yeah, I think Breanna Stewart's the only player that is going to challenge Cynthia Cooper's four finals MVPs. I mean, she's got 2 already, and as 26 years old, she's got ages left in her career. And she's, as you said, she's such a versatile and all-round player, which makes the difference. She can do everything that she needs to do on the offense, on defense, and she just wins on the teams that she's on. Obviously, she's got good teams with her, but the way she fits in and the way she can adapt, and she's come back so strong after that injury last year, which is so hard to do, and she's looking even better than she did before. Yeah. So a Breanna Stewart that was better than in 2018. It's crazy to think of what she can do in the future when she's in her prime. So I think if we look back in 10 years on her career, I think she's absolutely going to be up there. If not, she is going to be the GOAT.
It is terrifying that she's coming back from a career-changing, career-altering, debilitating injury, perhaps, for some players. And she's just shrugged it off and been like, no, let me just improve my game to another level. Though, again, wasn't the regular season MVP. And when people look at this in 20 years' time, they will notice that. They will count that against it. Maybe.
But if she'd played that last game, would she have been the regular season MVP? Because that's what we were saying. It was coming down to that weekend.
I think it was coming down to that one game. But I think Vegas had their number in the regular season, so I don't think that was, too in doubt. Let's just look at who's next. So thinking about the players that have come through the last 2 seasons, is there anybody there with, and this is a ridiculous question, I appreciate this, GOAT potential, aside from obviously Satou Sabally? That goes without saying.
Hey, I mean, Satu's not necessarily a bad shout. She's a fantastic player and has that great versatility. She didn't perform from 3 as as I sort of expected this year, but she has that in her game. She showed it. I think she was shooting 38-39% in college, so that's in her arsenal. And once she gets used to, playing against professionals, which I think she did this year, she held herself quite well. She does have a chance. I mean, we've, her teammate, Arika Ogumbowale, I mean, I see a lot of Diana Taurasi in her. She is terrifying, and she is an all-out scorer. So if you're looking from a pure scorer's point of view, then she is going to be up there, by the end of her career. But I mentioned her earlier, Nafisa Collier, I think does have that potential. I think she just needs to bring out a bit more of the nasty, as Greg Popovich likes to say. And there are a couple of others. I mean, the one that sort of is the elephant in the room is, of course, Sabrina Ionescu.
Yeah.
Now, we were cut short with her this year, but she showed in college she was easily one of the best college players of all time. She does have that potential, but this year has worried me a little bit. Not because she didn't perform very well as a rookie, but because she missed so much time, and because it looks like she's not going to be going and playing abroad. She's going to miss out on a whole year of development. And in the WNBA, you don't get too many opportunities to show how impressive and how useful you can be before the next crop of players come out. There's only 144 spots in the league, and if you don't show that you are more than capable within a short space of time, then you will be relegated to the bench, and then you'll be relegated to just being invited to training camp, and then you'll be out of the league. It happens within 2 to 3 seasons. Now, I think Sabrina Ionescu, a player of her caliber and someone with as much history on her side, I think she's going to be given more chances than most. But you do have to sort of think that she might need to play a bit of catch up by the time next season starts.
On the European point, and just if you're watching us for the first time, we are huge fans, or at least Caz and I are, of European basketball. Absolutely love European basketball. That's where the real action is. Why is she not playing doesn't appear to be playing in Europe this year? Is it the injury, or is it something else? Do we know?
I haven't done as much reading into it as I should have done. I think there was a little bit of hesitancy with the injury, but honestly, there was talks of her even trying to come back during the season. So I don't think the injury is as bad as they say, or as bad as some people believe it might be. But I haven't done reporting into it, so I wouldn't be able to say with much confidence. But I think she's. A lot of young players end up going to Europe because they need the money, because the WNBA doesn't pay very well. She is signed on with Nike, who I imagine have paid her quite a pretty penny to be their one of their main women's basketball ambassadors. So they want her to be healthy and on the court, and they probably care more about the American market than they do the European market. So they're probably not pushing as much. Again, this is all guessing. I haven't done any reporting into it, but I can only imagine that they would prefer her to come back and dominate the WNBA than go over to Europe and be a sort of and recover from injury and therefore not be at her full potential. Is just my thinking, is that she'd prefer to get healthy and still be able to earn money with her Nike contract.
Yeah, I mean, from what you were saying, and I completely agree with you, if she's missing this much development time, to me, that's a little bit of a red flag with where it's going to go. We've all seen what she's done, but to lose a year out, and if it's not a year that needs to be lost, like with what Breanna Stewart had and others, that's a bit of a flag for me. It's a bit of a red flag for me. I don't know. Caz, what do you think? Yeah,
I mean, she was speaking recently saying that it was kind of the competition side of it that she was missing playing, because there's nowhere, especially with COVID restrictions at the moment, I don't think there's many like open gym runs you can just go to and start playing. So she's kind of not really got the option if she's staying here to be able to do that. So if she wants to play, she's going to have to go to Europe. But then, as she says, you don't want to. Maybe it's just a year off to recover for the injury. And I could be saying keep your visibility here, because she's obviously going to be more visible in the US than she is playing in Russia, France, or Spain for the Nike US audience. But I think she'll be okay. I think she'll catch up to where she needs to be next season.
Now, Huw, we told you that we were going to have you for maybe half an hour tops. We've completely run over time. We've stolen that time. And can I steal a couple more moments of your time? Is that okay?
I'm here. Yeah.
Oh, absolute superstar. The Great Britain wobble. I hope that they're okay with me calling it a wobble. So Great Britain, they're going to be traveling to Istanbul in November for the Eurobasket women's qualifiers to finish off their group. And we'll just dive into Huw. What can you tell us about GB's efforts at qualifying for Eurobasket?
At the moment, I believe they're 1-1. So they essentially need to win this game, and I think it's always difficult. You never know who's going to be playing right up until the final few days, because first of all, are the players going to be able to get out of their countries? Are there any quarantining rules where they need to, they might need to enter the country like they do in the UK and be there for 2 weeks, and then they've got to re-enter the country that they're playing professional basketball in for another 2 weeks before they can see anyone. It's really, I can't imagine too many teams want to pay one of their star players, and we do have a couple of star players, on the British team. It's going to be difficult to see if these teams allow a player to sit out for a month just to quarantine, essentially, just so they can go play one game in a tournament. So the higher paid players like Temi Fagbenle, like Carly Samuelson, like Joey Leedham-Warner, it's going to be difficult to know if they're going to play or not. But they need to play to win this final game, because there is a lot of talent on the teams that they're playing against, and we can't overlook them. Last year's Eurobasket showed that Britain has the potential to be a player on the international stage, certainly on the European stage. And if it's going to be at Eurobasket, first of all, it needs to get there, but also it needs the best players playing and building chemistry and ensuring that they are staying up to date with Chema Bacheta, the coach, to make sure that they stand the best chance possible. I think there is a medal in their future if they can keep this group together. But European basketball is not getting easier. You've still got France, you've still got Spain, Belgium's coming up. It's going to be incredibly difficult, but they do have what it takes, believe it or not.
I fully believe it. I mean, we all saw what they did at the last Eurobasket. I'm going to have a very quick moan about the structure. Like, Spain don't need any more help. Okay, it's almost like you're penalising a side that's already sort of on a back foot by making them play an additional game. A team like Spain or France, they don't need additional help. Like, they're playing teams on an uneven footing. It's like, what a strange thing for me. And maybe this is a little bit of bias and bitterness. That is a Hannah Shaw jersey in the background. In an international competition, it's just wild to me that you're making some teams play 5 games and some teams play 6 games. I don't know. But that's my only thing, and that is the way it is. Those are the way they're called. Cards fall. Caz, you as always locked into Manchester basketball. Any GB chat from your good self?
I'm just hoping we get the roster finalised soon, so we can see who's there. Hopefully, we'll get to see Georgia Jones again, because she's always great to watch, leading the team. And Jo Leedham-Warner, after her performance in the Olympic pre-qualifiers back in February, where they were this close, they were like 2 points away. Just looking at some of the reports back and just sort of watching some of the clips back the other day, she was just on fire. She was leading that team as well. And her and Temi and Carly Samuelson, that core is really strong. It's really great core. But we know they've spoken in the past about not being able to get that off-season time together to practice, which is it's a problem for them.
Huw, just before we lose you, how exciting is it to have it? Go on. I was just going to say a fully fit Christina Nigwe playing for this Great Britain side.
I mean, it's going to be brilliant. It was so disappointing. I spoke to Christine a few months ago, and she was gutted to not be fully healthy to play with the team. I think she basically ended up hurting herself as we were, getting ready as they were getting ready to play in the qualifying tournaments. So her name had been inked on the paper, and she just couldn't get on the court, sadly. But she showed that she can play in the WNBA, and she can spot minutes for some of the best players in the world. The team looked better with her on the court next to Candice Parker than some of the other players on that team. So I have every faith that she's going to be able to play alongside Temi and alongside Carly and Joey and Georgia and hopefully Hannah. Hannah, you better be back. It'd be great. It would be great to see her playing fully healthy, because she is a defensive nightmare for opposing players.
All right. Well, Huw Hopkins, thank you so much for your time. Absolutely delighted to have you on the first episode of the Caz and Daz show. Just very quickly, plug your Twitter and plug one other thing.
So Twitter is @coach_Huw. And you can find podding most of the time on Double Clutch, or read most of my work on Sky Sports. Actually, I had an article looking ahead at the WNBA 2021 season go up on Sky Sports today, so check that out.
I read it. It's very good. I can
thank you.
I will check that out later. I have not yet to read this, I'm afraid. Huw Hopkins, thank you so much for joining us this evening on the Caz and Daz show.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so how awesome was that, Caz? Huw Hopkins
awesome.
On the first ever Caz and Daz show. That's awesome. And we've got something else. We've got another awesome person coming right up. And let's just introduce him now. Let's not, no preamble, none of this business. It's Faith Okwuosa. How are you doing, Faith?
I'm well, thank you. And how are you?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for joining us. Really great to have you on. Of course, you play for the Thames Valley Cavaliers in the WNBA. WNBL.
Oh,
sorry. Hey, one day. Okay.
One day.
We're going to build your profile. It's going to be a wonderful thing. I'm so sorry. We've just been doing Goat Chat in the WNBA.
No, of course. I've been listening in. It's been great.
So, basically, we've got you on, Faith, because yesterday your team, the Thames Valley Cavaliers, they started to put out a message for a fundraiser. Are you able to talk to us a little bit about that? What's happening in Thames Valley, and how can people support you guys this season?
Of course. So where to start? Obviously, we're firstly thankful to actually be given the opportunity to play this season, given that other divisions haven't had the opportunity to have their games scheduled in yet. So what we're trying to do, this was more of an initiative for before we'd even selected the team and understood everyone's circumstances. We were trying to ensure that whatever player came in, given that we tend to have players that are full-timers, secondary or college students or university students, mothers, anyone, young female players who even work part-time, for instance. We wanted to ensure that they had everything they needed to play, more so from a financial point of view. And we didn't want that to be the determiner of whether they can play or not. So what we wanted to do was start a fundraiser, a crowdfunder, to ensure that we can raise as much funds as possible to go towards the team fees, as we are a self-funded team. Now, obviously, given the circumstances, of what's going on in this world, the uncertain landscape of that we're all living in. We don't know whether full-timers could go into furlough. We don't know the situation with people that are students. They may be working part-time jobs, and it's a lot more difficult to do so, given that the job market's really low at the moment, and it's probably hard for them to find jobs, and also hard for people who may have been made redundant to find jobs. So we're just trying to do all that we can to ensure that anyone who wants the opportunity to play this season can play without the finance being a determiner. We care about our players' mental and physical well-being. It's one of the main things we care about. So it's really important for us, not just for us to have a successful team, but for everyone to have that opportunity and have basketball as their outlet.
So firstly, just a pretty simple question. Do you have a goal, a target of how much you're looking to raise in mind?
Yes, so at the moment, with everything that we forecasted, with including court hire, coaches, referees, officials, transportation, at the moment we're forecasting it to total around 8,000 for the season. So per player at the moment, that sits at about, it could sit anywhere between £500-600, which is a scary number. So honestly, we want to raise as much as we can to just bring that number down. Even if we weren't to get the whole amount, every little helps. Anything that will reduce the number that is forecasted for our players would be a win.
So obviously, this is one of the realities of sport in the game in this country, and obviously with the current situation, that is a prohibitive amount of money to ask a player or a person who's also holding down work in life to ask for. Can you talk a little bit about Thames Valley, the team, and just a brief little history on lesson for people who may not be super aware? And before you do, if you're not aware of Thames Valley, we did a little WNBA preview the other day with Michael Hanson-Morris. Check it out on the FocusHoops channel. Anyway, go ahead.
So Thames Valley actually originated as the Oxford Brookes women's team. So the Oxford Brookes women's team then partnered with Thames Valley to start once they lost the opportunity to have the Division 1 team within Oxford, they then moved to Thames Valley to pretty much start from D2 and create a team to grow and get into Division 1, which was done in the initial season, which was a great achievement for the women. I wasn't part of that team actually, but honestly, it's something that I'm still prideful of, given that I'm part of the team now and it's part of our team's history. So yes, in the season before the last, Thames Valley were Division 2 South champions, which enabled them to be promoted. And in the last season, we played our first season Division 1, which was abruptly ended given the coronavirus situation. But at least we did have the opportunity to play right up until before playoffs. We were seated at quite a good place, especially for our first season in Division 1, which was, I think, we're sitting between 4th and 5th, which put us in a good place for how we would continue in playoffs, advance into playoffs. So yeah, that's pretty much an overview. As for the team now, obviously there's still things being confirmed. We want to try and make a team announcement within the next week or two. We've had, given the coronavirus situation, we've had a lot of issues with court and facilities. So we haven't had much of a preseason yet. Unfortunately, the coronavirus is still affecting us hugely, and the implications of coronavirus for schools will also affect us in the coming weeks, given that some GCSE students are still resitting papers, and our home courts and training facilities is within a school. So we're going to lose some time within preseason and preparing, which is unfortunate, but we have to deal with we have to deal with the cards we're dealt. Yes, so we're still training on preseason for preseason. It's looking like our games are going to start early November, hopefully. The situation could change that. So we do have a week or two for preseasons at the moment, which is okay. It's a little bit worrying, but what all we can do is just work with what we have. We have our squad is looking great.
Good.
I'm really excited actually for this season. Our roster is quite different, substantially different. Majority are new, but it's looking great, and it should be a great season.
All right. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys are able to put out on the floor this year and perform. I'm really excited to be able to commentate you guys when you come down to Cambridge and play at the Stephen Pearce Foundation at the bunker, as I like to call it. Caz, anything from you? Any questions at all?
Yeah, I was just going to say, can you talk a bit about the impact of not being able to play, and what that's been like for you during this, since probably February till around now? Obviously, as a player.
Yes. So I think prior to pre-season, I don't think I've had the opportunity to play since the season was abruptly ended, which is March. It's been a long time. It's basketball, as we discussed already, it's an outlet for many people, including myself. Not being able to have that outlet has not been the easiest. It was a great relief coming back into the game. It's obviously been shaky, and honestly, how everything has been in the last couple of weeks, where we've been on and off practice, given the circumstances, it's really shown how it would affect us if we weren't able to play this season. And the uncertainty around sport at the moment is really worrying and distressing for many people. So it does affect us greatly. We do hope that restrictions don't lock us out of playing. We are grateful that we have the opportunity, because honestly, there are many other teams that don't. With Division 2 not starting and below, local league teams, there's several players that may play for both Division 1 and local league, Division 2 and local league, or solely local league, and they're not able to play. Recreational basketball not being allowed, given that facilities are not allowing indoor sport at the moment. It's a lot, and a lot of people are affected by it. So we are in a better off position, which we are grateful for. It's not a great place to be. We've been there since March, so I totally understand. And I just hope things ease a little bit, and so everyone can have the opportunity to play the sport that we love.
So where can people find out more information, and where can people maybe donate if they're able?
So the link will be posted on the Thames Valley Cavaliers Instagram, also on the Thames Valley Cavaliers Twitter. So the Instagram handle is at Thames_Valley_Cavaliers. If you go onto there, we will post a link. Also, we'll be posting it frequently onto our story, and it should be I think we will probably be able to make an Instagram post in the near future, probably by tomorrow as well.
Okay, wonderful. So we'll obviously over here at Focus Hoops keep a keen eye on that, and we will share out anything that we see from TVC, because we want to make sure that we look from a really kind of selfish point of view. We want the WNBL to be the best league it can be this year, and that means we need all 12 teams, and we need them firing on as many cylinders as is possible.
Agreed.
And have you got any streaming for the games, do you know, that people will be able to watch?
So at the moment, I'm not too sure what the setup is, given the restrictions. So we need to confirm what we're able to have within the school. That being who would stream. We do have the facilities to be able to stream. It's just given the rules and the regulations, whether it would stop us from having those people indoors while we play. we will be announcing that. So as soon as we do know, we will announce that directly onto our socials as well.
Awesome. And obviously we will share those out as well. Plus any of these roster announcements that you've got coming. Very excited for that. I mean, we know of at least one individual. That's your good self. So that's one news broken, I suppose. Wonderful. So is there anything else that you would like to cover whilst you're with us right now?
No, that would probably be everything. It's been really good to be able to discuss that actually and to put that out there. So I do thank you for the opportunity to spread that knowledge and to be able to support us in trying to raise the funds for the betterment of our women on our team. We really do appreciate that.
You're more than welcome. Thank you so much for coming on. And once we've got games underway, we're going to have to get you back on to talk about how the season's going. And also, we'll touch in and see how that fundraiser is going in and where that money is going to help you guys and making sure that, like you say, basketball, the sport that we adore, is still that really positive outlet for as many women as is possible. So, Faith, thank you so much for joining us on Focus Hoops. Do you have any personal socials that you want to share, or do we just go? And then we go.
No, I can post that. My personal social is Faith Onyi, so that's FaithOnyi. I do have the link of the fundraiser on there, so do click on to check that out, and the URL below my profile. You'll find it there.
Okay, Faith, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
On the very first episode of the Caz and Daz show.
I'm honoured. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there we go. Look at this. We've
got a high bar here.
We are setting a high bar. I mean, that's two high quality guests. We're going to take a very quick break, and when we return, we're going to talk about a whole heap of other stuff. Don't you worry. We'll be right back. Word from our sponsors, Notch, the mark of achievement, and we are very glad to have them on board with Focus Hoops this year. They make fantastic bracelets that look super stylish and really help you celebrate your sporting achievement. They've just launched a basketball collection, and we're really excited to be on board with them. Let's imagine that you're a player. Let's say that you're Courtney Vandersloot. You got 18 assists in a single ball game, and you want a notch and a bracelet to commemorate that fact. Well, you can do just that. Customize it to your team colors, put the year that you achieved it, and get it the exact size that you need. There are a number of the colors available. Or maybe you're a coach. Maybe you're the coach of a basketball team. Let's just say that you're the London Tyrannosaurus Rex. Your team wears red. You had the league's most valuable player, the MVP, and you want to celebrate that. You want to award them with a great looking notch bracelet. Well, you can do just that. And you can get it saying MVP on the notch itself. That's the charm. You can get the colour you want. Gold is one that I'd go for if we're commemorating the best player in the league. We could even get the team logo, if it's the Tyrannosaurus Rex, let's say, on there. And present it in a beautiful presentation case. Huge thanks for Notch for coming aboard Focus Hoops. And we are back now. Firstly, please make sure you go and support Notch like they support us, because every little helps. Plus, Notch bracelets, they're really nice. They're really cool. I know some very top athletes who are looking at them. That's not a lie that media people say. It's actually true. They keep on telling me I'm going to get one. I'm really excited. Also, we are. Oh, there's me. Hello. We're also every week we are going to try and give a shout out to a charitable cause. If you saw the WNBA show, you know the score. We were hyping up Ashley Smith and her charity fundraising efforts and a couple of other people. So this week we are celebrating the work of Aroma Catering. They support college students wanting to get into the career of catering. That's a tough old job, and we want to support them in that endeavor. So what does Aroma Catering do? They meet the needs of students who can't afford the travel. Maybe they can't afford the chef whites. Maybe they can't afford knives, professional knives. They are expensive but very valuable pieces of kit. Well, Aroma Catering, they look to fundraise and support students, maybe from disadvantaged backgrounds, to get the best life chances they can and allow them to embark on a career that is going to give them a lot of, it's going to improve their life chances. That's all we need to say. You can check out their social media. The links are in the description to this video. Get them on Instagram, aroma_catering, Aroma Catering Foundation on Facebook, and aroma_catering_ on Twitter. Big shout out to Nick Hall and everybody over at Aroma Catering. They are doing amazing jobs, amazing work, improving and changing the lives of young people all over the northwest. My apologies, northwest. Okay, we are back. Caz, we just spoke to Huw Hopkins about the greatest players of all time. How cool is that?
That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
That's pretty cool. And of course, huge thank you to Faith coming on, talking about TVC. And again, links will be added to the description as soon as we get them. Now, Caz's Corner. We're going to call this. Caz, what is going on for you in the world of women's basketball this week? And also, let's just go with that. What's going on in your corner of women's basketball?
There's been a lot of Turkish basketball going on in this week. There's been some crazy performances from Satu Sabali and Ruthie Hebard. Draft pick. So Ruthie Hebard this week says she's playing for Nasibe in Turkey, in the Turkish league, which has actually got a shed load of WNBA players. I think it's the league with the most players at the moment. She just had 24 points, 23 rebounds.
23 rebounds.
23 rebounds, as you do. Yeah. I mean, she had 15 rebounds the other week and third in the league in rebounds. She is, Ruthie Hebard is having herself an absolute first overseas season at the moment. She's been named Player of the Week in their second week. They're in the fourth week at the moment. I think this week is the fifth week. It's an 8-week season before they move to the EuroLeague and Euro Cups. And she and Shea Peddy are playing for Nasibe. And they've got a pretty good record. They're 3-1 at the moment. They're 4-1 after her 24-point, 23 rebound game, because I just like to say that, like 24 and 23. And she's averaging, like Ruthie's averaging 25 points on 66% field goal shooting. And it's really good to see her kind of come out, have this overseas season, because she didn't get to play too much in Chicago, as maybe some of the other rookies did, just because of the quality and the depth of that Chicago team. And I think next season she's going to have an absolute breakout season. But it's a good league to watch. There's a lot of, as I say, there's a lot of players over there. Erica Wheeler's playing over there in Izmit, 10 points a game, and Satu Sabali in Fenerbahce, they're unbeaten at the moment. 21 points on 63% shooting. There's something in that Oregon mix. 9.5 rebounds, and they're just, it's a really cool thing to be able to see these players, these younger players as well, getting some time, getting some experience in these overseas leagues, because it's a totally different kind of, it's a different way of playing, it's a different way of living for them as well. They're obviously, you know, it's not English isn't the main language over there, so it's a totally cultural change and a bit of a shock for them as well. Maybe not so much for Satu, because she's obviously from Germany, but they're getting that experience, and it's pretty cool to see. And some of the games that are being played, exciting games. You can watch most of them as well. There's generally a stream on the Turkish Basketball Federation YouTube channel.
I thought you were going to suggest some dodgy streams then, Caz. I was like, whoa.
All above board.
This is same story in Spain. If you want to watch the Spanish league, all their streams appear to be live, free, not geo-blocked on the Federation website for the Liga Femenina Endesa. I've not been able to keep up so much with what's going on in Europe this week, unfortunately. But, you know, Meligreta played on the weekend. Meligreta's Estudiantes Movistar won. They were victorious. and Meligreta is still great fun to watch. So that's my Spain update. I will come back with a much more in-depth Spain update next week. Are there any other? Go on.
Sorry, I was just saying, I think she's third in the Spanish league in assists as well.
I mean,
not a surprise.
Get her to the. In the words of Ishmael Fontaine, to the league.
Do it.
Do it. Dallas Wings, because you need a pass first point guard. Oh my God! Imagine her and Satu Sabali and Enrico Gumbawale. I mean, that's a dream. That's a dream situation.
It is.
That's what we call dream living. So those for me, it looks like Turkey, it looks like Spain, and obviously EuroLeague are what is going to draw a lot of our attention this year. Is there any other leagues in Europe that leap out to you other than obviously the National Basketball League in England and the WBBL?
So I've got a couple. So one that people probably really need to watch is the Russian league, because we mentioned Ekaterinburg last week.
How did they get on? Did they have a quiet weekend?
How did they get on? They had a 62-point win this week.
Casual.
62 points. They won by 118 to 46. And Jonquel Jones didn't play. Breanna Stewart didn't play. Brittany Griner didn't play.
Oh.
Breanna Stewart's on her way. And they won by 62 points. Emma Miesemann had 19. 19. Maria Vidivia had 19. Ali Quigley, 18. Courtney Vandersloot, 8. They didn't even really need to play that many minutes. That team are a force. I don't know how anyone can beat them.
That team is it's a madness.
It's unfair, really.
Well, you can't say that. You're not allowed to. You get told off for saying
okay.
that. But no, it is quite a remarkable team. I now see the amazing people over at Next Basketball told us about what the salary cap situation is in the WNBA. That is a set of finances I want to see.
Yes.
Because I am confident that they're all being properly remunerated for their work and how incredible these athletes are. I just want to see it. I just need to know.
They might have some cap space.
I mean, maybe, and maybe they need an English language commentator.
Yeah, just put it out there.
Anyway, any more across your European journeys?
Yeah, just one in Germany. So the Bundesliga or WBBL. Sammy Roscoe, who was playing for the Manchester Mystics the last few seasons. So she had a debut last Saturday. It was I think it was a friendly or a cup game rather than the league starting. She had 26 points, 9 rebounds, and they won by 1. So she plays for Göttingen. I think that's a passable pronunciation.
We'll go with that.
Who were playing and they play Hanover this Sunday, but they played their last game. They won by a point. It was a really exciting game. It came down to the last shot with about 7 seconds left, but Sammy just had a really dominant game, 26 points, 9 rebounds, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she does the rest of the season.
Yes, of course, a friend of FocusHoops, and we'll see him on this show, don't you worry. Adam Masters, he was very excited putting those links in the group chat, being like, Sammy's playing! So we all, I think, dipped into that game. Meligreta was playing, so it was sort of like a dual screen situation for me, I'm not going to lie to you. But awesome. So that is, we've got to keep an eye on Germany, Russia, Spain, and Turkey. Is there anywhere else that we will be keeping an eye on? Anybody that we know playing abroad this year that we need to keep an eye on? Oh, of course, the Samuelson sisters, they're playing in Spain, so that's them covered.
Yeah.
And we will keep an eye on Temi Fagbenley because she is playing in Italy this year. So we will keep an eye there as well. Any more for any more?
I think there's a few players in France. Is Natasha Cloud in France?
I think so. Oh, yeah, I think she might be playing for Astel. Need to double check. So, shall we move closer to these shores very briefly as we're wrapping up towards the end of our show today? The WNBL, the Women's National Basketball League, it kicked off in earnest last weekend, or the weekend just gone. We had 2 games played. The opening tip-off, the 2 p.m. on Saturday, it was the Worcester Wolves, the newly promoted Worcester Wolves, playing in their beautiful gym. Also, where we see the men's team playing the WBBL, in the BBL, with their excellent streaming setup. They took on their local rivals, the Bristol Academy Flyers. Now, the Flyers is one of the teams that I'm tipping to have a strong season. They've brought a lot of their roster back. They've brought back Lisa Jewell, who didn't play for them last season. And this is a team that has been at the pinnacle of the WNBL. They have been thereabouts every season. They won the league 2 seasons ago. So Worcester just came out and won 68-58. And I don't think anybody was quite expecting that. Myself and Mike Hanson-Morris were a little bit taken aback by that. If you go back and watch our preview, which you should, by the way, to learn, educate yourself on the 12 teams of the WNBL. But quite the performance from Worcester. Marquez dropping 21 points, their leading scorer, and Maisel Betty, 15 points for Bristol. So I'm super excited. Zilbetti playing again this season. One of my favourite players to have watched and commentated down the years. And then on Sunday, another shocker of a result given how things have played out the last couple of years. It was the Kohler Southwark Pride. They hosted the Reading Rockets. Of course, Kohler, the City of London Academy. And the Reading Rockets, they have been in youth finals. They have been in the WNBL playoff final 2019, as commentated by this guy over here. Anglia Ruskin won out that day, but a really top-class team right at the pinnacle, again, at the business end of the National League. Kohler, they have struggled at times over the last few years. You know where I'm going with this. Kohler beat them 72-52. It was an enormous first half effort that they was able to sustain and sort of manage the rest of the way. Absolute domination, start to finish, from Southwark Pride. Unfortunately, don't have live stats to share scores with you. You will be able to watch the Kohler Southwark Pride. They are taking on Anglia Ruskin University this Saturday, live on FocusHoops Facebook Live page from the Stephen Pearce Foundation in Cambridge, The Bunker. Basketball, live basketball is back. Kaz Bullock.
Yes.
Yes. I was at the ALU Media Day yesterday and hung around to see a bit of their practice, all wearing a mask. It was all good times. God, it's good to see live basketball being played, I've got to say.
Are they looking good? Was the practice looking good?
Practice was looking very good. It's going to be, as we spoke about the other day, a lot of turnover at Anglia Ruskin. Quite a new roster, but not new to one another necessarily.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of their Bucks team. They're very, very strong Bucks team. They were 2 points away from promotion. And I don't mean points as in, in a standings. I mean points in a game. Okay. It was that close. Nottingham Trent University just pipping them at the end. And that's what happens when you put one of the best players in the WBBL. Oh, actually, a very good WBBL player and one of the best players in the WNBL into a Bucks roster. You're gonna do really well. So yes, very different. They've got Courtney Gray, formerly of TVC and Oxford Brookes University. They've got Lisa Greenaway back, joining the club. Obviously, a former WBBL champion, played for Nottingham Wildcats, won the cup a couple of years ago with Nottingham as well. So really excited to see them. And their American, Autumn Callis. She can shoot, Kaz. Ooh. She can go off. Speaking to her briefly, personal goal of hers was to, maybe beat my game high score of 33 points.
Okay.
That's
a goal.
So I'm excited to see what this Anglia Ruskin team are able to do. New coach, quite a new style of play, and quite a different roster. But don't worry, because Catherine Hume is still around. So, one of the best players in England over the past X amount of years, former WBBL champion as well. It's it's going to be an interesting year. It's going to be a really interesting year in the Women's National Basketball League. Now, we've spoken about my corner of the world in terms of Cambridge and the National League. Let's talk about the British Basketball League, Caz. Up in your neck of the woods. We've alluded to it on the WNBA show when we would do stuff like this. And you know what? Let's just do it again. Oh.
The fade.
The fade. Don't worry, this will be updated. Mystics, they got something cooking, have they?
Yeah, they have. So they've been announcing signings this week. 12:30, 5:30 on their Instagram. Whatever day it is today and previous days and tomorrow, I think they're going to be carrying that on tomorrow as well. But so far, they've got Georgia Jones is back. Manchester's very own Georgia Jones. One of the best players the WBBL's ever seen, and on the GB squad as well. She's just fantastic. I love watching Georgia, and she's so important to that team. She's also one of the few players to have over 100 appearances in the WBBL since it started. Dominic Allen's back again, averaging nearly a double-double last year, 9.9 points, 9.1 rebounds. Rhiannon Bailey is back as well, and Vanessa Accra is back. I think that's all they've announced so far, but there's bound to be some more coming very soon. They're going to be so good. The Manchester Mystics are a great basketball team. Obviously, Jeff Jones is coaching them. And last year, before everything was just stopped abruptly, they had a 10-5 record. They were looking really good, really together. Obviously, they'd had some players that had been out a little bit. They'd got Jade Babam on the senior team from the under 18s Mystics teams, who's gone to Angelo State in Texas in D2. But they've kind of looked to be keeping the core of what they've got together. Obviously, losing Sammy Roscoe, that's quite a big gap to fill. But I'm sure Jeff and the guys have got something in the pipeline there that they're just waiting to announce.
Obviously, it's a huge what if, and we don't like to do what ifs, but let's do a what if. Could they have done it? Could they have knocked off Sevenoaks?
The way they were playing at the start of this year, I don't know what date it is anymore, but the start of this, before the season finished, the start of this year. Yes, I think they could have done. They were so in sync. They were so in sync, and that's what I was so looking forward to seeing because they'd have got there. I think they'd have got there.
That would have been something. But would they have got past the Wildcats, who also, like you're saying about Manchester, the Wildcats seem to really start to get things going, and they took a game off Sevenoaks as well, of course.
They did. I think they could do it. I've got all the faith. I have all the faith in the Mystics. It's a great one.
What's your jersey of the day? Just
it's a Manchester Magic jersey because Brand 161 only have like XXL Mystics ones. So sort that out, Adam.
Sort out, ads. Call mate. Like, what are you doing? Shameful.
It's terrible. And Georgia Smith, who played for the Mystics, has signed with Newcastle Eagles. So that's a little bit of a change there. But Newcastle are very high on her, and they've wanted her.
Excellent. So I think with the WBBL kicking off or tipping off properly so when is that coming back? That's coming back a week after, isn't it? That's the 7th of November?
Yeah. And they start with the Cup. Yes. Then they have the international break, and then we start with the championship, the season.
Awesome. So I think next week, that must mean that next week will be the WBBL special.
Yeah.
Plus our European roundup. And, hey, maybe we can just wrangle a couple more guests. I don't know. If you are a professional women's basketball player, an amateur women's basketball player, somewhere in between, or a pundit on the women's basketball scene, and you're like, hey, the Caz and Daz show looks like a fun time. Hit us up. Give us a call. Give us a shout. Let us know if you want to be involved in this. And obviously, if you're watching this live, if you've been watching live, drop us a comment. There's been some interesting comments dropped in the comments today. Lots of people saying hi and wanting shout outs. It's not that kind of scene, but we do appreciate your comments and people getting involved. Caz, is there anything more from you before we finish off today?
I think we've covered it. Like there is so much, but for people that don't know, there is so much basketball out there because the WNBA stopped, because the NBA stopped. Basketball hasn't stopped. Europe, Australia, there is basketball going on year round, and you can watch some of the highest quality. This country, Spain, France, Germany, Turkey, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
and it's over here,
and it's
over there.
Yeah, it's worldwide,
and that's okay. It's all right to enjoy things that aren't inside your country, and it's okay to enjoy things that are inside your country. Don't limit yourself. That's my big thing. Don't limit yourself. Enjoy the best of women's basketball, and hey, enjoy the best of men's basketball too. Don't you worry about that. All right, Caz, thank you so much for joining us as always this evening. Final thoughts from you?
This has been fun. High bar set for show 1. Let's see what we can do next.
We'll clear it. I mean, we'll have to get Huw back on to clear it, but we'll clear it. All right. So all I'd like to say is thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure that you check out Notch, who are our partners at FocusHoops. Just make sure that you give them the support that they give us with their beautiful bracelets. Support, celebrate your successes in sport, whatever they may be, but do definitely check out their new basketball collection. And of course, there we go, check out Aroma Catering Foundation and see if you want to support the great work that they are doing, because they really are looking to improve and change some lives. Caz, it's the first show, buddy.
It's been fun.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll speak to you next week.